technically a Brit award, but what I love about you is you call a mug a mug. If we were giving out a Brit, who would win?
So many, let's have it right. The world is being run by cranks at the moment, so probably Keir Starmer.
Okay, right. Let's not turn this into a riot. Okay.
The private school tuition fees thing is going to also have a negative impact on the exchequer. So Rachel Reeves is an absolute. She has. Look, she might have been good in the complaints department in Halifax. She's totally out of her depth in as Chancellor. How do we know that? Well, look what's happened since her budget. This country has lost well over $250,000.
This whole Brexit thing, when you know you're judging them on Brexit, they don't know nothing about it. Who knows about Brexit?
Yeah, quite.
No one's got a fucking clue what Brexit is. Yeah, you watch Question Time.
Refund on reality, and the rest of us were still laughing. What did Danny say that wrecked their whole act? Trust me, you're not ready for this meltdown masterpiece. This could change everything because Danny Dyer, the unofficial poet laureate of pub logic and unfiltered truth, just verbally tore into Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves like they were background extras on EastEnders. One moment he was ranting about politics with pint-in-hand fury. The next he was making more sense than the entire Labour front bench put together. Starmer looked stunned, Reeves looked like she wanted a refund on reality, and the rest of us, well, we're still laughing. What did Danny say that destroyed their whole act? Trust me, you're not ready for this meltdown masterpiece. British politics. Like this one, don't forget to like the video. And subscribe to Dark British. Believe it or not, over 98% of viewers watch our content. Without hitting the follow button. Subscribing is completely free.
Danny Dyer's reasons for choosing Keir Starmer as his twat of the year weren't made clear there, but he did say more in an interview with The Big Issue in October last year. The Tories are such fucking arseholes that Keir Starmer got in, not for what Labour was saying, but because the Tories fucked it up so much. And I don't like this man. I don't trust this man. He got the job handed to him on a plate. So what are you gonna do to show us you're different? And he's gone straight in on pensioners. I find that fucking fascinating.
Starmer walking into number 10 is like hiring a substitute teacher to run NASA. He's got the voice of a sleep-deprived accountant, the charisma of an ironing board, and the policies of someone who asked to summarize Thatcherism in 5 bullet points. And Rachel Reeves, well, she's basically the human version of a PowerPoint presentation that's still buffering. Together, they've turned the whole "the adults are back in charge" vibe into something that feels more like the curtains are drawn, the lights are off, and nobody's answering the door.
I can tell you today that we will be making the biggest ever investment by a British government in transport links within our city regions and their surrounding towns. £15.6 billion in transport funding settlements to be delivered by our regional...
Enter Danny Dyer, who somehow ended up becoming the voice of reason in British politics. Yes, Danny Dyer, the man who once shouted, "You mug," on national television with more passion than Starmer has ever managed in any speech, now looks like Cicero compared to this soggy excuse of a government in waiting. And let's be real, when Danny Dyer starts sounding like the actual grown-up in the room, you know something has gone seriously off the rails in Westminster.
Everyone is. It's incredible, 2.5 years of a debate. So I'm just as bored of it as anyone else. I don't want to get into the... Well, of course, you know, stand by what I said. He needs to be held accountable for it. You know, there's no two ways about it. Where is he? I'll say it again. Where is the geezer? So, you know, it is what it is. We've got to try and get on with our lives somehow and stop talking the same.
Starmer promised change, but so far the only thing that's changed is the font on the press releases. Everything else is the same old routine. Weak policies, cozying up to corporations, and enough U-turns to make a sat-nav crash. You know, a leader's in trouble when the highlight of his campaign is that he once believed in nationalization, like it was just some rebellious phase he went through after listening to the Arctic Monkeys and before joining the legal team that defended poll tax prosecutions.
Thank you so much for that reception. What an amazing reception. We did it! You campaigned for it, you fought for it, you voted for it, and now it has arrived. Change begins now.
Starmer's approach to politics is like microwave porridge. Technically it works. but it's depressing and a bit lumpy. The man dodges questions like he's stuck in an endless game of sweaty dodgeball at Eton. He promised integrity, then hired Sue Gray, the very woman who investigated Partygate, as if that wouldn't scream establishment stitch-up. He condemned cronyism, then filled his shadow cabinet with enough Blairite fossils to stock a political museum.
What a day in politics, because Reform MP for Runcorn, Sarah Pochin, drew gasps of astonishment at PMQs today when she implored Keir Starmer to ban the burqa for public safety reasons. Take a listen.
Given the Prime Minister's desire to strengthen strategic alignment with our European neighbours, will he, in the interests of public safety, follow the lead of France, Denmark, Belgium and others and ban the burqa?
Yeah. Prime Minister.
Can I welcome her to her place? But I'm not going to follow her down that line. But now she is here and safely in her place, perhaps she could tell her new party leader.
And Rachel Reeves, bless her, has managed to turn blandness into a weapon. Her economic plan is basically, don't scare the rich, don't feed the poor, and if we're lucky, maybe keep the lights on until the next think tank breakfast. She even said Labour would be more responsible than the Tories with the economy, which is like bragging you're more hygienic than a butcher's bin. Nobody wanted that, Rachel. Not a single soul. Danny Dyer, never known for subtlety, finally had enough of this beige parade. In classic Dyer style, he skipped nuance and went straight for the jugular. When he called out Starmer and Reeves, it wasn't political commentary, it was poetic justice. Because while Danny might be famous for pub shout-outs and hardman roles on telly, at least he doesn't pretend to be something he's not. Starmer's entire act is pretending. Pretending he didn't back Jeremy Corbyn. Pretending he's one of the people, while sipping flat whites with CEOs. Pretending he has a backbone while constantly bowing to the Daily Mail's editorial board. And when Danny Dyer said Starmer looks like the type of bloke who asks for the manager when Pret gets his order wrong, the whole nation couldn't help but nod in agreement.
I've been really clear that I am under no illusions about the scale of the challenge that I will inherit if I become Chancellor of the Exchequer. The worst economic inheritance since the Second World War in terms of debt. The first ever Parliament where living standards are lower at the end than they were at the beginning. We're not going to be able to turn everything around straight away. But our plan to grow the economy built on a rock of economic stability with a tough set of fiscal rules that I will adhere to as Chancellor will start to turn around our economy so that living standards improve, we get growth and prosperity in all parts of the country.
The UK keeps missing out on massive growth opportunities because the Chancellor has no clue how to actually deliver it. She had 5 years to prepare, yet somehow managed to mess it up in her very first budget. There's something almost tragic about watching a Labour leader so terrified of looking too left-wing that he ends up resembling a Tory in turn desperate to be noticed. Starmer keeps banging on about stability, like he's applying for Governor of the Bank of England, not Prime Minister of a country with collapsing infrastructure, record food bank usage, and public services being sold off like discount items on Love Island. Meanwhile, Rachel Reeves seems busy summoning Thatcher's ghost, only with less charm and worse hair. Her big economic strategy? Balance the books like it's a Sudoku puzzle, completely ignoring the screaming reality that you don't rebuild a country by starving it of investment. She's so obsessed with looking fiscally responsible that she makes George Osborne seem like Karl Marx on acid. And while the two of them cosplay as sensible technocrats, Danny Dyer is the one asking the real questions. Why are we pretending this is leadership? Why are we applauding mediocrity like it's a moral virtue? And why does Starmer always sound like he's reading out the terms and conditions for a washing machine warranty? Let's not forget, this is the same Keir Starmer who once wrote 10 pledges he now treats like embarrassing teenage diary entries. Back when he pretended to care about public ownership, abolishing tuition fees, and standing with trade unions. These days, you'd get more passion out of a tax return. If political amnesia were an Olympic sport, Starmer would take home gold medals in every category.
Every decision that we have made, every decision that we will make in the future, will be made with working people in our mind's eye. It's working people who pay the price when their government fails to deliver economic stability. and they've had enough.
Sir Keir Starmer has warned that Britain must embrace the light of fiscal reality ahead of Wednesday's budget, in which the government is expected to announce a series of tax hikes. In a speech in Birmingham, the Prime Minister said the country faces unprecedented economic challenges, but promised better days ahead. While the Conservatives have accused him of breaking promises over his pledge not to raise taxes on working people, Sir Keir said he wouldn't recoil from tough decisions.
Every decision that we have made.
Rachel Reeves isn't much better. She delivers economic forecasts with all the emotional depth of a voicemail from your dentist. She throws around phrases like tough choices and spending restraint with the same flat energy as someone trying to return a broken Hoover. And when pressed on how Labour plans to fund anything meaningful, her answer always boils down to the same thing. We won't. And that's really the problem, isn't it? They've turned Labour into a management consultancy in drag. No vision, no courage, just spreadsheets and self-congratulation. It's all, we're not the Tories, without ever actually being anything different. Their strategy is so cautious, so bland, that watching beige paint dry looks like a political revolution in comparison. Dyer doesn't do cautious. He does raw, unfiltered pub-style rage. And that's exactly what half the country is feeling right now. He cuts straight through Starmer's lawyerly waffle and Reeves's robotic, nodding the way a butcher slices through a tofu sausage. And when he says they're bottling it, he's not wrong. They're not fighting for change, they're filing for it.
So, is it true that Rachel Reeves can cut her way to growth? No, she can't. And yet she remains obsessed with growth all the same.
And here's where it gets properly embarrassing. Keir Starmer's team keeps saying, we have to win over Tory voters, as if the 14 million people who didn't vote last time are mythical creatures who don't matter. Meanwhile, they're busy purging left-wing candidates faster than a Tory minister deleting dodgy WhatsApps. They act like bold policy is a risk, not a strength. As if taxing the rich will somehow make Jeff Bezos personally hunt them down with a gold-plated flamethrower. It's cowardice dressed up as pragmatism. Rachel Reeves talks about growth like it's some mystical forest spirit that only appears if you sacrifice public services and whisper sweet nothings to bankers. And still, Dyer keeps shouting, because someone has to. Someone has to call out the nonsense of Starmer's fully costed plans that cost nothing, because they do nothing. Someone has to laugh at the absurdity of Rachel Reeves bragging that Labour is now the party of business, while actual businesses are collapsing under Tory rule, and Labour's only response is polite applause from the sidelines. It's like watching a fire rage, and deciding the solution is to give a PowerPoint on fire safety. They're not putting out the flames. They're just selling tickets to the barbecue.